Hi, Fola.
Hello, Crystal.
How are you tonight?
I'm very well. You?
I'm really good, thank you.
Yeah.
It's so great to reconnect and get together. And well, we've been chatting for about 2 hours and just chatting about life and letting go.
All the fun stuff. Yeah.
Letting go.
Yeah. So that's why we're here to talk to you guys today. So welcome to episode 3.
Episode 3,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
And just we want to talk about letting go and allowing the universe to trusting the universe and allowing the universe to take people out of our lives, and when one door closes, a window will open, and have faith in that.
Yeah. And this is something I had mentioned too not long ago, because I feel like this is totally, with my life changes that have been going on, a huge part. And you see a theme, I guess, with like the fall time, right? Like transition from summer to fall, that there's like that need of like letting go and like allowing a new chapter in our life to kind of open up, right?
I agree.
And it can be hard for people because we're so used to wanting to hold on to that old aspect of ourselves that we're comfortable with or that we know or are familiar with, even though maybe it's not fully serving us, especially when it comes to relationships or having people in our life where it's not really building us up anymore and it's just like the stagnant sort of energy. So I do think it's important to like talk about, well, how do we know when it's time to let go? And then what are some ways in which we can do that? Because that's a huge thing. We can talk about it, but if we're not practicing, I guess, what we're preaching or being able to like come up with the solution to it, then we're going to just be in that stagnant place for months or years or whatever, I guess that's what, then people have marriages for like 30 years and then the kids leave the house, right? And then
they don't know how to connect or on an intimate level or even be friends or whatever the case is. And yeah, for sure. Definitely. Letting go. I've been in situations where people came into my life, a companion or a lover, and I couldn't understand why they left. And I literally had to, it wasn't until years later, understanding that the universe was saying, yeah, no more. And toxic or whatever the case is, or no more lessons potentially to learn from that person.
And I think that's a good point to make when you think about relationships, really the reasons that we have them. I mean, besides that we're humans and we like to connect with people, right? Or have those connecting like relationships. It's the fact that we're there to learn something from each other, and usually people are a mirror of our own stuff. So you are able to like see another person and realize, if you can realize at least, this is, hint, if you can realize that whatever you're going through, it's more because of your own stuff being mirrored back at you, right? Which is it's hard to say that sometimes, especially when we have like really shitty relationships.
Yeah, it's hard to digest, right? For sure, definitely.
Yeah.
That our reflection is showing up in other people. Our darkness is showing up in other people. Our fears are showing up in other people. And then also there's that whole attribute where vibrationally you're just not on the same level as that person anymore. You change your perception, your views change, and you're not connecting anymore, maybe with a friend, even for that matter. And you have to let them go as much as you don't want to, but vibrationally you're just not connecting. And so you have to trust the universe that you have new people coming into your realm of existence that is going to help you raise your vibration and bring you into a new state of consciousness and bring you into a new state of awareness. Trusting the process. It's easier said than done sometimes. Trusting the process, I've had lovers where I was very distraught that the universe, and I knew that the universe was taking them out of my world, and I was angry.
I hear that.
I was angry. I was extremely angry.
We should talk romantic relationships first, and then make our way to other ones.
To friendship.
That's probably like a huge
conversation.
Family.
We could talk about family and boundaries. Sure, definitely, and letting go and that kind of stuff. And I
like that when you mention that. I'm like, because it makes me think when I was seeing someone, it was the first like real like quote unquote polyamorous relationship I had with this one guy, and like he totally ghosted me. Like that's the first time I'd ever been ghosted. And I was like, what the hell? Like, why would someone do that? And like, but you know what? As like the relationship, if I can call it that, as it went on, I was like getting all these intuitive nudges of like, this guy's not very honest. And like, I knew he was like not being honest with me, right? Like he was telling me just stories, but I was like, I don't really care. I was like, this is just fun. Like, I don't see this going long term or anything, like whatever. But until he ghosted me, and then it was hard. I would say for like a year. And maybe because it was like one like that situation that he was just completely like, like you said, the universe removed it, which is good, because who knows what type of stupid shit would have come up, right?
Just toxic.
If I continued to like toxic. Be in that.
Yeah.
But like, it was like a long time for me to want to like work through it and like stalker Fola. It's like, where is he? If I saw a truck, I'd be like, was that his truck? Like, where's this guy? Like, does he still live in the house that he like, and it's like, do I go there? And like, what should I do? I'll go to his work or something, like stupid shit, which I never would do. But it's like, it took a lot of work and like forgiveness work for me to like let go of that. Because then like, and also at the time I didn't have much like self-worth. I would say, like at that point, to me, that's kind of why I did the polyamories, because I was constantly looking for like self-love or love from other places instead of myself, or like acceptance of myself and all that. So it was like more of a challenge, right?
You're navigating and you're navigating through what you're learning about yourself is really what you were doing, to the point where you're now brought into a new relationship that is monogamous. Yes. How like we all have dirty little secrets, and I was with in a relationship for a very long time, and it was shortly after my brother's suicide that he left me for a stripper. He left me for a stripper. He fell in love with a stripper, and this was it broke my heart. I loved him. I cared for him. And I was even willing to, at one point, go see a therapist and like, let's make this work. And, like when you have that much time invested in somebody. But I watched the universe literally take him out of my life and say, no, no, you're not touching her. You're not hurting her. She has nothing more to learn from you. And I think now looking back, like spiritually where I am, because he was an atheist, and I felt he would have hindered my spirituality, is really what it comes down to it. I had to justify saging the house. I had to justify putting a picture that my grandmother gave me of the Last Supper on the wall. And it's a symbolism. Whether you believe in Mother Mary or Jesus or whatever the case is, it's a symbolism, right? And it's a gift. And just watching and navigating through. I know now, 9 years later, why he was taken out of my life. And it would have hindered me, and I would never have became the yoga teacher or the meditation teacher or whatever the case is. And super grateful for what I had learned, a part of, during that time that we were together. And
an experience too,
right? It was an
like
experience. Came into your life at divine timing, and then now coming into a new state of consciousness, a new awakening.
Yeah, because that's a huge part of it too, right? But I guess like we're saying, there's like lessons that we kind of have to learn and experience whatever they might be, and that the universe is kind of gonna like take care of, you know, like, and we can trust that's gonna happen. But, you know, again, then we can get into like these like darker conversations, which is always like, you want to be, you know, when people talk about like, well, if someone like was abusing someone in a relationship, or all these, like, where does that come up for lessons, right? I hate that topic because I, you know, as someone who hasn't really experienced a whole lot of that, it's like, who am I to really say
mental abuse or any sort of like sexual abuse in a relationship,
and it might be, being taken advantage of, or, you know,
exploited, or shamed,
you know? But maybe the part of that
I was in a I'm glad the universe took this person out of my life, to be absolutely honest. They shamed me for having stretch marks and gaining 10 pounds or 15 pounds and 15 pounds, all 5 feet of me, you know, and shame. But I'm that was dark. I really truly had to like learn to love my body. I truly had to learn to like embrace her, because when you're 20, you have that up and down body, and then you start developing into a woman, and you get the hips and you get the pelvis, and then you get the breasts and all that kind of stuff. And I found myself apologizing or for getting these voluptuous hips or getting breasts or whatever the case is. So I'm shaming the transition of girlhood to young ladyhood to womanhood, and I found myself feeling shame coming into womanhood. And so I'm grateful the universe took this particular person out of my life. You know, I'm grateful. And in that moment of my darkness, it's just the last few years that I truly can look at myself in the mirror and embody and have body talk with my body and say, you're beautiful, I love you, you're great, you're fantastic, you allow me to walk planet Earth, and I'm grateful for you, and I have nothing to prove to anybody, and I will never let anybody shame my body ever again. Ever again.
And you had to learn that.
But I had to learn that in order to like really see my body and really appreciate her for who she is, you know?
So I think that's what maybe something that comes down to it. Like, even people who are in like these really not so great situations, you have the power to like walk away from it. And maybe if you don't feel like you do, start like asking for how can you gain that power, that strength, or the skills or resources needed to do that, right? And then trust that it's going to be provided for you, and that there's a reason you're learning these experiences or learning these lessons, so that you can then like come out more powerful in the end, right? And more accepting of yourself and all of that, because that's a huge part. And I think too, another important thing with all this is to then let it go, you know, like whatever that looks like though, I think for people, you know, not because depending, I think, on the situation, it's not like you're forgiving. You're not saying the behavior was okay, because clearly it's not, especially when we talk about like, abuse or like manipulation and all those things that can be very hurtful. But it's like you can forgive the person being like, okay, they did the shit they did, and I no longer allow that in my life, and then to cut away from it and not, you know, wanting to constantly be like searching or looking for that person that you had the relationship with, because I think it's easy, we get like attached to it, right? But I think that's also part of the learning
and the darkness and all that kind of stuff. I think also the biggest lesson is forgiving myself for tolerating somebody else body shaming me, and although great lessons came out of it, wonderful lessons came out of it, feeling beautiful and quite adequate, like at age 43, and you know, very empowered in my body. But
it's definitely an interesting one. Okay, so how about then which one next? Family, I think that would be a good one, because that's kind of along there too, I think, when we're just talking about the whole the father-daughter relationships, right? All that. We won't go into all that, but like how we were talking earlier,
how we choose a man like our father.
Yeah.
And when you keep repeating that same pattern, you kind of have this aha moment, and you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
You go on a sabbatical. You go on a 2 steps back, and
that's okay.
Let's witness, let's observe what's showing up in our reality, and you start to think, okay, it's time to truly dig deep, and sometimes I'm seeing a psychologist to help me rewire and reprogram my brain right now, so that I'm not repeating that same pattern of men that are manipulating. Controlling in my life. So,
and I think, but when we talk about family, they're depending on people's cultures and stuff, there's a huge disconnect of when can you set boundaries with your family? A lot of cultures will be you have to have your family around. You have to provide for your family all the time, no matter what their behaviors are. That's something that I've learned. It's because that's kind of how I was raised, but now it's no, I don't really agree with that. Why would I stay around someone who's not going to respect me or treat me in a way that, I think I should be treated, and they're going to constantly berate or do whatever. So I think that's really hard. I know it might not be, especially if people are living with their family members, or they're taking care of parents who are, dependent on them now, or whatever the case might be. And I know people who have children who are maybe grown up, and as a parent of this child, and heaven forbid I'd ever have to deal with this, because I don't know what I would do, we'll get calls about parents from parents whose loved ones or children are using substances or drugs, right? And they're constantly coming to them for help, and as part of our mental health professional work, we'd be don't engage them and don't enable the behavior, right? But it's that's easier said than done, right? It's if it's your freaking kid. But it's there are times then when we have to set those boundaries and cut people out, but within our own, right? But I think it comes down to, first respecting ourselves.
Forgiveness
That's the
of
main
ourselves,
thing. Yeah.
Understanding you're completely full.
Yeah. And then figuring out, whatever, and having the conversation,
navigating through it.
Yeah, but that's a whole other topic.
I think it depends on the situation. It depends on family members. It depends on the situation. I've witnessed family members being taken out of my life, and has broken my heart. And I couldn't understand why. But I do understand why. At 43 years of age, I understand why now. It would have hindered me for evolution, for growth, to rise.
To have them still in your life in some way. Yeah, I think that can be a challenge. And like you said, sometimes people come and go too. So I guess it's kind of part of it.
They come back into your life?
Yeah, it's not if you say bye, that they're going to be gone forever. Unless obviously they pass away, then even then, are they really gone? I don't know, but there's that possibility, if you trust that you are learning the lesson you need to learn, and they're going to learn their lessons as well, just pray for them, because heaven forbid there's some people who don't learn that.
Yeah, you can't. That was a hard lesson with my brother, that you can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves. Yeah. You have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be your biggest fan. And you can try to help. I try to help my brother, that's a whole other, that's a whole nother conversation, right? Yeah, he got into alcohol, he got into addiction and
but that's not your thing to carry. That's and that's, what was we talking about? We were talking about, a friend and I were having conversations more along the lines of having people be in agreement with you or like you. It was really what we were talking about, especially as people as coaches or whatever, you know, you want everyone to like you, but you're going to have people that you come across who don't like you. And it's like, you have to just trust that people's perception of you is going to be through their lens, and whatever, you might say something that one person might totally love, and another person might be like, get a total hate on, right?
They'll challenge you.
Yeah, and same thing, like, you might behave in a certain way that elicits some, like, reaction from a family member because of their own stuff. It's like, you shouldn't necessarily change who you are. You know, as long as you're not maliciously hurting people. If you're trying to do the best you can in, like, in the light or whatever you want to call it, there's going to be times even your family members aren't going to hear you or listen or think that that's accurate. But it's like, then at that point you have to be like, okay, well, you live your life.
Live and let live.
Live my life.
Live and let live.
And trust that we'll all meet our lessons and learn what we need to learn. And then maybe, hopefully, if it's
you
meant
can
to
be in service to them, and you can try to help them. But if they don't want to help themselves, then live and let live. Worry about you. This is what I've been learning over the last how many years. That you have to make sure that you're full, that your cup is full, right? You self-love, self-nurture, before you can even give yourself to somebody else, right? Yeah. And we were taught, I know, I'm pretty sure you'll, like, your generation, you know, your culture and everything, that we're supposed to be in service for the seniors, and we're supposed to be in service for humanity and stuff like that. And that's great, but you should be in service for yourself first. You have to be your biggest fan, your biggest advocate. You have to make sure that you're taken care of before you can even make sure your backyard's clean before you start cleaning somebody else's backyard. Yeah. It's really quite simple. You know what I mean? Make sure your house is clean before you go and, like, offer to clean somebody else's kitchen, right? Same sort of thing, right?
Yeah, because otherwise you're just deflecting any response.
Then you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because you're not taking care of your own shit.
Yeah.
You gotta take care of your own shit. Yeah,
maybe that's why there's been so many, like, unhappy people in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, because we're always trying to deflect it onto others instead of focusing on ourselves and our own thing. But I do feel like that's changing for sure. At least I think it's changing.
How so?
Of Facebook world and all the people that I have on Facebook who are like, focus on self. Because that's something that
that's something that is definitely going quite viral, and I'm appreciating it. You know, when your backyard's clean, go help some senior, or go help somebody or your friend or whatever the case is, right? So,
speaking of friends,
yes, what about friends?
That's with, like, the next sort of type of relationship.
Oh yes,
I feel like
we were having this conversation a month and a half ago, and then that's how we just, you don't feel this actual pull sometimes, or to connect, or you have nothing to talk about with that person anymore, and you're trying to connect with them. I've had people like that, and where you don't want to lose them. You try to connect with them, and there's just no connection whatsoever, right? You're in a different place, completely different place, different awakening, right?
Well, I think that's because people are, they're going through their own life stuff, right? And you're going through yours or whatever, and it's just going to be, like, not in alignment. I have, like, one particular friend, I would say this has happened where it's like, we'll go, like, years without really engaging. It's happened a couple times, which I find really fascinating. So I trust, like, we'll come back. Like, it's just like the cycle will come back again, right? But sometimes I'll get, like, the guilt of, like, oh, like, should I be doing more? That's something that comes up for me, is like, oh, I should be reaching out, and, like, especially family, because of my parents always being like, you gotta stay in contact with your family and all this, right? And I'm like, well, I guess I should, but it's like, well, are they also reaching out? Like, sometimes, but at the same time, it's like, I don't really feel like, why? Maybe it's just the way, I've come to understand it's just the way that it is for some people in life, especially some friends. And there are those friends that you'll always come back together with, and you'll be able to, it's as if you never even, like, had a time apart, right? And I think that's really cool. But it's like just letting it be what it is, I guess.
Just
right?
be.
And not
Just be.
because I know you kind of like worry then of like not having the relationship, but then the more we worry about it of like losing it, then the more possibility we are going to lose it. Do you know what I mean?
We're putting that out in the universe.
Yeah, because there's that fear of that loss. But yeah, it can definitely be kind of a challenging part of it. I think it's just trust. And you mentioned at the beginning of this, the fact that you might have a relationship leave, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be other opportunities. And I can definitely see that in my life now. Like even today, there are 2 people I started talking with. And it's kind of funny how like sometimes I just kind of know there's like something. This one girl like starts talking to me about where she's from, and turns out she's into the shaman stuff and all these things. And then another gal too, and I'm like, it's so weird how we just like connected, and how
vibrationally,
like, and how like the universe kept putting us across each other's paths on like posts and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, like, well, this is kind of interesting, like, but being okay with allowing the past stuff, letting it go to create that vacuum for then like these new possibilities, whatever those mean. It's not like I'm saying now we're best friends, these people, but I trust that like there's connections being made for then another opportunity or whatever these things
you are.
You're
meeting
right?
people at divine timing for a reason, and all that kind of stuff, and putting that faith in the universe that everybody's coming into your world for a reason or a season or a lifetime, and just humble and surrender to that, right? But sometimes letting go, it's nice to see somebody let go, or that you don't see that right away, or just navigating sometimes like through. It can be very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
When you do, and then that's also connecting with that darkness. That's why are they left my life? I love them. You take it personal, and then you truly connect on that spiritual level.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't.
My throat, I got a tickle in my throat, and I think my voice like literally wants to communicate something, and I'm trying to navigate like what is she trying to communicate. So just trying to
Well, and part of that, like it sounds like a lot of the bereavement or the grief, right? Like people will go through grieving process in a sense, right? Anger, depression, denial, whatever it might be, because they have lost a relationship or someone in their life, right? So yeah, I think that's and maybe some people might not go through any of those stages. Whatever, it might just be what it is. You heartless people. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting area of like
conversation, letting go, and trusting the universe and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes being angry with the universe and saying I'm not ready to let that person go, and I'm not quite sure why that's happening, but still trusting the universe, right? But in those dark moments, we have aha moments. We learn and we get to navigate.
And I think it would be good, like, if you're not sure about why, then having a conversation with the person. I think that's a hard part. As long as it's safe to do that, right? Like, I think if it's something you're trying to leave, then maybe it's not worth doing that. But for those ones where you're not sure, right? What's the status? What's going on? And if that person's open to the communication, then just being honest with them. Right? That's, I think, important. Otherwise, we kind of just let things linger in this, like, unknown space. And then our perception is one thing, and theirs is a completely different thing because we just didn't have a conversation. And in the end, if we did, it would be like, oh, like, it's just both our own stuff, like, coming up, right? But I don't know if you have any other ideas as to, like, what our lovely listeners could do to help let go of the relationships that no longer serve, or something
mantras and showing up for your body, on the mat or some sort of exercise and that kind of stuff. And allowing yourself to mourn it, be in that darkness, mourn it. And whether you start writing a letter, or you write poetry, or get creative in some shape or form, in the darkness, you can get super creative. I've written some interesting poetry that one of my best friend, Tina, she's like, I love it, it's great, it's dark, it's you. It's real, it's raw, it's life. And
because of the situation.
Because of that situation, being in the darkness and bathing in the darkness and just being in it, it festered all these emotions, and I wouldn't have wrote that poetry if, so find some sort of like creativity to channel that darkness and get into that zone, whether you paint or whatever the case is, right?
So creative expression.
Some sort of creative expression, or
body-ish movement. And
make sure you exercise the body, because that negative energy can get stagnant in the body, right? It can go right into the fascia. It can go right down into your heart. It can go into the organs. And that's the only way to move the energy, is through some sort of exercise, right?
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think? And mantras and that kind of stuff, right? And meditation.
Yeah, some things that I found really helpful are like karmic tie cutting or energy cutting.
Reiki,
like just like pulling. If you think about the person and notice sensations in your body, to like actually grab at it like with your hands and pull it away from you, and then like cut it away as if you were slicing it away, and like just let it go to the floor kind of thing, right? Or the ground, or just even if that means visualizing, like whatever. It's just like the intention behind that. You're pulling that away from you and out of your energy. And that I find really helpful. And I use that for like a wide range of things. Like even like if it's like a negative thought pattern, right? Like if I'd only had that with that guy that ghosted me, I could have been like, okay, Fola, get that thought out of your head. Like just forget about it, right? It would have probably passed sooner. Instead, I would just like try to like just suppress it and be like, or and have the guilt like, no, you shouldn't think that way. That's horrible. And then ruminate in it kind of without actually like trying to heal it necessarily. But
I think there's something to be said that, we can self-heal ourselves, and same sort of thing. Sometimes we need assistance. We need a Reiki or a shaman or whatever the case to assist us. But at the same time, you can do this yourself, for sure. I've been doing this the last couple months. There's one particular person in particular that I was very upset with. And so I would visualize cutting ties from this person, because it serves my body no purpose, and I have to be an advocate for my heart and for my soul and for my organs and my blood, and if I want to live a life of longevity and stamina and good health, right? It serves me no purpose. And energetically that can get stuck right in you. So you can actually, like you said, I've been doing it as well. You told me about that as well, and my girlfriend Tina does that as well.
Well, because there are some people who like intentionally, whatever you want to call it, hook onto like their energy. They'll hook it into you. I don't know if they necessarily do it like consciously, or it's just part of like how they have learned through their life how to hold on to people, right? So, there's certain people that really get at you. It's like some of those people, I'm going to assume, have the energy pattern of like hooking, like as if these were like tentacles that they latch onto your energy field and it holds on. And if we're not like conscious enough to cut that away or protect our energy, then they're going to have more of a hold on our lives, right? And impact us in our mind process, our emotions, all that stuff. And it could then to the physical body, because it's going to end up at that
You can
place.
feel the anxiety in your shoulders. You can feel it like in your back and that kind of stuff. I felt that before. That is fascinating that you're actually saying that. I think that thought is so powerful. I think that we are so powerful for human beings that you can actually energetically send ill thoughts to somebody. And it can go right into their body. Or if somebody's talking about you, you'll hear like your ears ring almost. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so you have to protect yourself. Like you have to visualize, like literally a white blanket wrapping around you and connecting to whatever higher power you believe in. It's very personal, you know, your connection, whatever you believe in, connecting with that higher power, that higher intelligence, and calling in this higher intelligence to also keep you safe energetically for your survival on planet Earth.
Yeah, and I think as soon as you set that intention, then you're better off. Right?
You are in a good space.
You're living your life more consciously and aware, so that then you have more power.
You have more power. You're keeping your power to yourself. And I think that's also given to us is that free will to call this higher intelligence or this higher power, this source in at any time to say, I need you now. Yeah. But you have to call it.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to, like, that's our free will. You have to call it. And once you start, like, navigating and start calling this higher intelligence, eventually you'll have this aha moment. Eventually you'll feel it. It'll be an embodiment of, like, through your entire being. If you're, like, going through any sort of sadness or depression, you'll feel it. I actually felt it. I don't know if I ever shared with you, but about 8 years ago, I was having a nervous breakdown on my bed. And my grandmother always said, pray to Mother Mary, Chrissy. Pray to Mother Mary. She's a mother. She's nurturing. She's loving. She understands your pain, Crystal. And so I called Mother Mary, like, prayed many times. And this one particular time, I'm literally having a nervous breakdown, tears, hyperventilating. And I felt something come through my body, something wipe away my tears. And it made me very curious, like, what just happened? Yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
And I don't question what that was, or if it was Mother Mary, or if it was a higher intelligence, or... All I know is it wiped away my tears, and it filled my body with love in that moment and made me want more of it. And I think that's a good place. That's very good. So whatever anybody's belief system is, call it in. Yeah. You know, your angels, your ancestors, call it in.
Yeah, because you never know what type of experiences that you can have, right? And just like... I think that's really powerful to have stuff happen like that, because it really solidifies for you, like, oh, you're not alone, right? You can have the emotional, like, upheavals that we have and be able to, like, process it in whatever way that is necessary, right? So, yeah, that's it, Jeff. Well, anything else that you'd like to share? What else should we tell you, lovely listeners, before we sign off?
Well, love yourself, self-nurture, self-love, self-compassion, self-kindness. Just be your biggest fan, be your biggest advocate, and don't lose faith. Don't lose faith in yourself. Don't lose faith in humanity, and just trust the universe. Trust that the universe is bringing the right people in your path at the right time.
Yeah, you'll be golden.
And you're golden.
Just go with it.
Just go with it,
Yeah, for sure. And don't question it, because then that never does any good.
No. And perhaps that could be your mantra. The right people are coming in my path.
Yeah,
the right people are coming in my path. I trust. I am provided for. I am loved. Yay.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for listening. And we will be coming out with another episode soon, and maybe some other interesting things for everybody. So keep an ear out for more fun stuff with Connecting with Spirit podcast. Take care.
Thanks, Fola.
Bye.